Good afternoon and welcome to Pause for Thought this afternoon. We're going to be starting a series looking at Old Testament stories and how they can relate to our current situation and our lives today. And I'm going to start that off by talking about the story of Noah, which I'm sure most of you are aware of. It's a story where God wipes out life on earth, except for one family. A story of death, destruction, that we'd like to put on all good Christian children's books, and will appear on nurseries and Sunday school rooms around the world. So that one. It starts in Genesis 5 with God saying, "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was on evil all the time." And it carries on. "Now earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on earth had corrupted their ways." So my first thought was this: how much different is that to how we would describe the world now? Has much changed? I think there are obviously a lot more people seeking to follow Jesus and trusting God than there would have been back then. But in general terms, we could probably say there's not that much change. The world is still full of evil, and humans still strive to go against the will of God. Now, I've mentioned that it's actually a rather gruesome story, and this is how Genesis describes it. "Every living thing that moved on land perished. Birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm over the earth, and all mankind. Everything on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils died. Every living thing on the face of the earth was wiped out. People and animals, and the creatures that move along the ground, and the birds were wiped from the earth. Only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark." So this isn't the happy, child-friendly story that we often make it out to be. It must have been terrifying and scaring and scarring and horrific to go through. You can just imagine Noah and his family having to know that everyone that they had ever known was drowning outside their boat, and they would probably have to be listening to screams of dying people, or people banging on the boat to get in. But that's not where God ends the story, and that's not where he leaves Noah, and that's not where we get our message of love and hope from. In chapter 8, when Noah and his family have effectively been in lockdown for months with all of his family and all those animals, and then we go and complain about our Amazon package not arriving late, or not to be going around our friends' houses, must have been so much worse for them. And despite everything that they'd witnessed and having been stuck on that boat, verse 8 starts by saying God remembered Noah. He had not forgotten Noah. He had not abandoned him, and that's where we get our story of hope and our story that we tell our children. God has not forgotten us. Normal life might be becoming a distant memory, but God has not forgotten us. And if God is still with Noah, if God was still with Noah through what was over nearly a year of absolute isolation and did not forget him, it kind of puts our situation into a bit of perspective. But finally, the ark comes to rest on Mount Ararat, and you could probably forgive Noah for thinking that it's finally over. Yet even then, only the tops of the mountains were visible. Noah still had to wait, and I can kind of see us at that point now. Restrictions are starting to be lifted, and we see the tops of the mountains. But when we look around, we still see a world covered in water. But we will wait, because we know God has not forgotten us. Because in chapter 9, finally Noah can come out of the ark, and God makes his covenant with Noah. The same covenant that he holds with you, that never again will God destroy the world. So we will not be defeated, and we will endure, and we will live on. So take courage, because God's promises never fail and will endure forever.